After a careful and thorough examination of all of the systems and risks involved, we have concluded that we are now ready to fly the most advanced mission for our Apollo 8 launch in December, the orbit around the moon. Frank Borman and his crew and all of our engineers are unanimously in favor of selecting this mission. We have reached this conclusion after a long series of intensive investigations as of the status of our program, the flight hardware, the ground support equipment, and the status of our training. The timing for the December 21st launch is conditioned by the position of the Earth and the Moon and the Sun. It's designed to give us daylight in the launch area and the recovery area, and then designed to give us the right kind of photographic and observation light on the surface of the moon. The outbound trip will occupy about 3 days. The time in orbit around the moon will be about a day, involving 10 orbital swings around the moon with about a 3-day return, actually adding up to something just slightly over 6 days to the recovery.
We've just completed further status checks here in the firing room at the control center. Here in the control center, we've had our status checks, and the range has given a go, as has the launch director, Rocco Petrone, coming up on the 2-minute mark on the Apollo 8 mission. 2 minutes and counting. T-minus 2 minutes and counting. We are still proceeding. We now have recorded that the first stage liquid oxygen tank has been pressurized, and the pressure is still building up. 1 minute, 45 seconds and counting. We have a vehicle weighing 6.2 million pounds on the pad. Interestingly enough, some 1,200 pounds of that weight is just frost on the side of the vehicle created by the extremely low temperatures of the propellants. Coming up on 90 seconds, mark, T-minus 90 seconds and counting. The Apollo 8 crew standing by, Spacecraft Commander Frank Borman, Jim Lovell, Bill Anders. We now have a report that the liquid hydrogen tank on the third stage is pressurized. 1 minute, 15 seconds. All third stage propellants pressurized at this time as we come up on the 60-second mark on a flight to the moon. T-minus 60 seconds and counting. T-minus 60 seconds and counting. The vehicle now is completely pressurized. We're coming up on a power transfer shortly. T-minus 50 seconds and counting. We have the power transfer. We're now on the flight batteries within the launch vehicle. 45 seconds. Final reports coming from Frank Borman at this time. Final look at the switch list aboard the spacecraft. 35 seconds and counting. We'll lead up to an ignition sequence start at 8.9 seconds. This will lead up, as we build up the thrust, to a liftoff. If all goes well, at 0. We've just passed the 25-second mark in the count. 20 seconds, all aspects, we are still go at this time. T-minus 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. We have ignition sequence start. The engines are armed. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. We have commit. We have liftoff. Liftoff is 7:51 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We've cleared the tower.
Oh, and there's the rumble in our building. It looks good. It looks like a good flight. It's a beautiful takeoff so far. This building is shaking under us. Our camera platform is shaking. But what a beautiful flight. Man, perhaps on the way to the moon, if all continues to go well. It's probably more severe than the men in the spacecraft itself. We're looking good. And we're a little more than half a mile into the sky and about nearly 4 miles downrange. You're now hearing the voice of Paul Haney at Mission Control in Houston. And our great VU cameras are picking up the spacecraft. 1 minute for 40 seconds. All looks great. Now in 15 seconds, the inboard engine should cut off on that first stage. That's the one inboard engine. And then 6/10 into the mission, and Frank Borman has confirmed each event as it's been passed to him by Mike Collins at this point. The crew has been given a go for staging. Inboard out on time, Frank Borman says. 25 more seconds. The other 4 engines of the first stage should cut out. 2 minutes, 25 seconds. The rocket then will be 20 miles high and going 3,000 miles an hour. And there is the staging. An S1C, the first stage cut off. S2 has ignited, we can confirm. And the thrust looks good. All engines, all sources show the second stage is burning perfectly. 2 minutes, 51 seconds into the mission. They had their fingers crossed for that one. It was 2 of the engines that failed on the second stage in the second flight of the Apollo. The flight safety console has been released at the Cape. 3 minutes into the flight, we're 50 miles high and about 10 miles downrange. minutes, 25 seconds. We have verified that the tower has jettisoned. The crew has verified the tower is jettisoned.
That's the launch escape tower, which, if there had been a disastrous explosion before this, would have pulled the spacecraft free.
He says the ride now is even smoother.
All right. Okay, we're getting a pretty good picture, but if you move it a little slower every time you move it around, why it breaks up on the scan.
The voice is that of Jim Borman. Frank Borman, I suppose.
This is known as preparing lunch and doing V-23 at the same time. You've got everybody standing on their heads down here. Marco, has you got it turned upside down? You got the wrong rest mat. We all have our problems.
You're hearing the voices of the astronauts, and from the Mission Control Center at Houston.
Now, Houston. That's really good.
The voice of the
okay,
flight
now we're
controllers.
coming up on the view. We really want you to see us, the view of the Earth. And if you'll break for just a minute, Bill's going to put on the large lens. So we'll be right back with you. Okay, thank you.
The astronaut you saw closest to the camera there was Jim Lovell, the Navy captain, who sits in the center seat. That looks like Bill Anders there.
Houston, we're now showing you a view of the Earth through the telephoto lens. Okay, we're not receiving a picture right now. Okay, let's try the other lens again then once again. Okay, thank you. Okay, stand by.
No, that's the short lens again, I believe. I'm not sure. Maybe it is the long lens.
Okay, we have a picture. Stand nothing. Okay, it's a little difficult to see what we have. That's the Earth, but it's not the telephoto lens, unfortunately. It's just a regular inside lens. Okay, it's coming in as a real bright blob on the screen. It's hard to tell what we're looking at. Well, you're looking through some haze on the window, too, unfortunately. And the Earth is very bright besides. Okay, we've got the Earth in about the center of the screen and a little bit low. And it looked like there were some objects that moved across the screen at the same time. Do you have any comment on those? That's some water ice coming off the vent nozzle. How does it look now? It's still the same thing. It's the target is extremely bright, and it's very difficult to make out what we're looking at. It's unfortunate that we don't have we can't make the other lens work here. I don't know what the problem is. We've tried it both ways. Okay, thank you. What we're getting now is a good picture. Say again? Okay, that's a real good picture. That's the best one we've had. And how about just going in and leave your pictures inside until we can think some more about what we can do to adjust for that light? Roger. Jim, what are you doing here? Jim is fixing his dirt. He's making up a bag of chocolate pudding. You can see it come floating by. Bill's coming up from the lower equipment bay.
This is the voice of Frank Borman, the commander of the flight of Apollo 8. We're looking now at Bill Anders.
It's unfortunate that this telephoto lens doesn't work. Show the lens that's the culprit here. lens doesn't seem to be working. I can't understand why we're not. Perhaps it's a problem with the light transmission to it. This transmission is coming to you approximately halfway between the moon and the Earth. We've been 31 hours, about 20 minutes into flight. We have about less than 40 hours left to go to the moon. You can see Bill's got his toothbrush here. He's been brushing his teeth regularly to demonstrate how things float around zero G. Looks like he plays for the Astros the way he tries to catch that thing. We could show you the Earth. It's a beautiful, beautiful view with predominantly blue background and just huge covers of white clouds. Particularly one very strong vortex up near the terminator. Very, very beautiful. Perhaps we'll get some assistance from the people on the ground and be able to determine why this other lens is not transmitting properly.
There's no question that the RCA engineers, the builder of that camera,
light at all coming through the telephoto lens,
and the optic experts on the ground have their heads together at mission control right now, trying to figure out how to get that long lens working.
Showing us on your normal lens, and I don't think we got anything on the telephoto. We're working on this now. One of the problems seems to be that it's a low light level lens, and we're afraid that you may burn it out pointing it at something that's too bright. Well, the Earth is very, very bright. There's nothing in the lens you can burn out. The camera still seems to be working. We can give you a lumens reading of the Earth right now if you'd like.
Anders is
Hey, Frank, how about a couple of words on your health so I will...
Anders passing a still camera. It looked like the Hasselblad.
They're in very good shape.
To Jim Lovell to take a picture, presumably the Borman using the camera.
Bill is playing cameraman right now, and I am about to take a light reading on the Earth. We all feel fine. It was a very exciting ride on that big Saturn, but it worked perfectly. And we're looking forward now, of course, till the day after tomorrow when we'll be just 60 miles away from the moon. You all look great on Candid TV. Okay, I just got a reading on the Earth, Houston. It's 320. The Earth is showing 320 lumens now. Close-up of Jim Lovell, Bill, you can let everybody see that he's already outdistancing us in the beard race. Jim has got quite a beard going already.
Jim Lovell, the Navy captain, navigator on this flight, is just a few days younger than Frank Borman, the commander. They're both 40.
Happy birthday, brother. Jim's going to take a shot of us from the lower equipment bay, then we have to get back to our passive thermal control or the barbecue mode so that we don't get one side of the spacecraft too hot for too long a time. So we'll be signing off here and looking forward to seeing you all again shortly. Roger. Goodbye from Apollo 8.
And there it is.
And just hold her steady. It's really looking good.
A beautiful, beautiful picture of Earth as seen from 200,000 miles away.
What you're seeing, Mike, is
Jim Lovell.
Jim Lovell, about to say something to National Communicator
what
Mike
you're
Collins.
seeing is the Western Hemisphere. Looking, the top is the North Pole. In the center, just lower to the center, is South America. All the way down to Cape Horn. I can see Baja, California, and the southwestern part of the United States. There's a big long cloud bank going northeast. There was a lot of the Gulf of Mexico going up to the eastern part of the United States. And it appears now that the east coast is cloudy.
I wish they could get it centered, of course, as do you.
If I'm some lonely traveler from another planet, what do I think about the Earth from this altitude? Whether I think it'd be inhabited or not. You don't see anybody waiting, is that what you're saying?
Jim Lovell
Well, I'm
there.
just kind of curious whether I would land on the blue or the brown part of the Earth.
Playing
I hope we
space
land in the
travel.
blue part. So are we, babe. Jim, is always for land landings. I'll shift to the rendezvous window. Roger, Bill. Apollo 8, Houston, we want to take the DSC. Roger, you got it? Roger. Looks like we got a real good picture now. Okay, that's the crater brand. Roger. Sorry we missed car. Me too. Apollo 8, this is Houston. We're going to need a cryo fan cycle sometime during this pass. Roger. Can we wait till sunset? Roger, we can wait. Hey, Bill, how would you describe the color of the moon from here? The color of the moon looks a very whitish gray, like dirty beach sand, and with lots of footprints in it. These two craters look like pickaxes striking concrete, maybe a lot of fine haze dust. There's some interesting features out on the other window. Let me switch windows on you now. Roger, Bill. You should see the horizon now in the top of your picture. Roger, we have the horizon, Bill. Apollo 8, I believe now these are the craters, Bassett and C. Roger, Bill. If you have the polarizing cylinder handy, try slipping it in front, would you? Roger. Jerry, as a matter of interest, there's a lot of what appears to be very small new craters that have these little white rays radiating from them. Roger, Jim. Passing a beam of the crater Houston. And I'll shine the camera over there once for the folks in Texas. Roger. It's a big and sprawly one. It's got those two impact craters, one to the right and one to the left. Roger, Bill. It's still about the same, Bill. It's the terrain's pretty bright. We're not getting much definition at all. Definition on this side is much, much better. Okay, I think. Okay, we'll leave here the wind. That gives you an idea how bad our window is. Roger, this picture now is much better. I guess the light levels are decreasing now. This Houston, Apollo 8, this is Houston. Looks like we can see Collins now. Roger, here's Collins for you. And Collins is right on the edge of Space C, which we're about to pass over. Roger. We are now approaching lunar sunrise, and for all the people back on Earth, the crew of Apollo 8 has a message that we would like to send to you. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. And from the crew of Apollo 8, we close with good night, good luck, a Merry Christmas, and God bless all of you on the good earth. And down here in the part of the spacecraft that we call the lower equipment bay, we have the President's Advisor on Physical Fitness, Captain Jim Lovell, about to undergo an exercise program that we do every day. You notice that he floats around very freely, just bumping his head on the optics of our navigating. Another very important function of our spacecraft is the computer. And I thought you might be interested in see what we have here. The displays that gives us all the information about our burns, about navigating, and about the velocities that we use during entry and retrofire on Earth orbital mission. You can see it's controlled by a disk key, or similar to a typewriter keyboard, and the things that go in and out of that are absolutely miraculous. It's done a fantastic job for us, and Jim Lovell's done an excellent job operating it. Now, another very important thing, whether you're in space or on the ground, is eating. And I've asked Bill Anders to show you how we eat up here. Okay, you can see that he's taking his scissors and cutting the plastic end off of a little nozzle that he's going to insert the water gun into. The water gun dispenses half-ounce bursts of water per click. He cuts open another flap, and you'll see a little tube comes out. Down in this area, it's called the LEB, or the lower equipment bay, and we have our optics positioning equipment right here. We do all our navigation down here by setting on stars and on the horizons of either the moon or the Earth. And this is where we find out exactly where we are in space, what direction and how fast we're traveling. And our computer, as Frank had mentioned, then takes the information and tells us how to maneuver to get home safely. I work with the scanning telescope and the sextant, and occasionally if I get too busy, I just sort of float out of sight. Well, the Earth looks a little bigger to us today. Not much, but it's somewhat bigger. I'm sitting over in the right-hand seat now. Bill's got the TV camera. Frank's helping him out, aiming it correctly to hit the Earth. I hope we have a good picture. Can you see the clouds? Affirmative, we sure can. Moving up toward the Terminator. Oh, correction, away from the Terminator, just a shade.
At the tip of South America, there's a great swirl cloud down there. It looks like a great storm. Wonder if you can see it.
Roger, we see a large swirl just to south of the Terminator.
Right, and then up to the left-hand side, or towards the north, we can see the light waters around the West Indies, and we can actually see Florida. I'm looking through Bill's binocular, and you can see the various landmasses in South America, the central part, and southern part of the United States.
Roger, move a little bit away from the Terminator now. A little left with the camera, and a little further away from the Terminator.
Say again, Jerry.
Okay, you're moving it toward the center of the screen now, and the Earth is off on the left side of our screen. Real fine, that's good. Hold it right there.
What we're thinking about right now, Jerry, is hitting that wedge angle about 2 degrees there limit when we come back. The Earth looks pretty small right from here.
Roger.
Helicopter number 66 with astronauts Borman, Lovell, and Anders. Getting ready to touch down on deck. Here comes astronaut Borman and Lovell and Anders standing on the steps, and a great cheer goes up from the sailors out here on the flight deck. All of them looking in very good condition, needing a shave, of course. Shaking hands with Ben James. There's Captain Lovell shaking hands with Ben James. Walking slowly down the red carpet, accompanied by John Stonecipher and Ben James, the 3 astronauts. Lovell having a very noticeable beard. Frank Borman looks as if he is shaved. All 3 salute. Captain Fifield is at the microphone.
On behalf of the entire Yorktown crew, a most hearty welcome aboard and congratulations on a tremendously successful flight. Colonel Borman, would you care to say a few words to the crew?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Well, we're just very happy to be here, and we appreciate all your efforts, and I know you had to stay out here over Christmas, and that made it tough. Jim and I always seem to fly in December. We made it home before Christmas in '65, but we can't tell you much how much we really appreciate you being here and how proud it is for us to participate in this event, because thousands of people made this possible, and I guess we're all just part of the group. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Captain Fifield presents Yorktown caps to Colonel Borman, Captain Lovell, and Major Anders. Captain Fifield shaking hands with Colonel Borman. Colonel Borman looks as if he's grabbed a quick shave on the way back. At least there's no indication that he needs a shave in the sense that Lovell and Anders do. Walking slowly down the flight deck now, all of them wearing their Yorktown caps.
Go ahead.
With the scrambled eggs on the front, scrambled eggs, you know, indicating their rank. Colonel Borman of the Air Force, Captain Lovell of the Navy, and in the middle, Major Anders of the Air Force. Walking slowly down the flight deck of the aircraft carrier Yorktown, with Captain Fifield on the left of Captain Lovell. Behind him, Ben James, and over to the right, John Stonecipher, the senior NASA Public Affairs, senior NASA official on board. Over they go to the flight deck, to the number 3 elevator. This very small party, followed by a very large group of sailors, standing on the number 3 elevator, waiting for just the last moment or two before they are taken down to sick bay to commence their physical examination. But we already know the verdict of that examination. The astronauts are obviously in the very best of condition.
Now, we all know that you men were supported by an elaborate technical apparatus and by many brilliant and devoted men and women here on the ground. And we salute all of them as we salute you. The first thing I did this morning when things looked good was to call your boss, Dr. Payne, and Jim Webb, and to congratulate them, and then to call your wives and Houston, and to express our gratitude to them for providing the strength and the inspiration to you men that would permit you to accomplish this great feat. But we know that all the engineering marvels in the world could not take away one whit of our excitement and admiration for the three of you that were out there in the vastness of space. If I could have exchanged thoughts with you, I was going to ask you whether it felt better coming down or going up, and to have you tell me some of your experiences, because you've seen what man has really never seen before. You've taken all of us, all over the world into a new era. And my thoughts this morning went back to more than 10 years ago in the Pedernales Valley when we saw Sputnik racing through the skies, and we realized that America had a big job ahead of it. It gave me so much pleasure to know that you men have done a large part of that job. So we rejoice that you're well, and we send you congratulations from all of your fellow countrymen and from all peace-loving people in the world. Well done.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. We're all proud to be Americans.
After a whirlwind half-million-mile journey through space and a relatively slow and plodding trip across 4,500 miles of their own planet, the astronauts have come home. This last leg of their voyage, aboard an Air Force jet cargo plane from Hawaii to the city they call home, took about 7 hours and must have seemed somewhat old-fashioned and painfully slow to the space travelers. For their wives and children, waiting at Ellington Air Force Base, the final minutes were long ones, too. The most impatient of the astronauts, it seemed, was Frank Borman. He stepped from the C-141 ahead of his comrades, and while they were still hitting the cement, he was getting a kiss from his wife and giving her the flower necklace that had been put on him at the Honolulu reception yesterday. Borman led the way to a little platform where microphones had been placed so that he and his buddies could greet the 1,000 or so friends, colleagues, and Houston neighbors who, despite the hour, 2:30 in the morning, and the chilly 40-degree temperature, had come to bid them welcome home. James Lovell joined quickly, with William Anders, the relative Johnny-come-lately to space flying, lagging so far behind that Borman and Lovell kidded him. Late again, huh? They said as he reached the platform. Each had a very few words to say at the microphones.
We want to thank you all for coming out so early in the morning or late at night. And I guess there's no way to express really how great it is to be home and be with our families and our friends again. It was a great flight, but we're really happy to be back here in Houston. Thank you all very much.
I thought for a minute we left Bill Anders back on the moon. I wasn't too sure what happened to him. But let me also express my appreciation for all the wonderful turnout. We had a wonderful trip, and we hope that you look towards the program like we do, because we think it's a great thing and it's going to go in great places shortly. We really had a great time.
We had a wonderful flight, and we're proud of it. I hope you are, and I want to thank you as Americans for helping make it possible. Thanks a lot.
They'll have one day with their families before going in for a week's debriefing at the Space Center here in Houston. But there was just no way of rushing through that crowd of well-wishers and newsmen.
Everything go just right for you? Everything went perfectly. We really were happy. Congratulations. Thank you.
The way the ladies felt was evident in their eyes and in their smiles, and in the way Marilyn Lovell clasped her husband's hand. For once in these days when most news seems to be bad news, here there was only laughter, joy, contentment at the finish of a great adventure.